Good morning, everyone out there in the world today. This is Sunday, April 25th, 2021, and I am Erica Swenson Elliott, in case you can't recognize me from the past. I just added, for those of you that have been watching these videos, I've only had this little picture over here on the left, and I added this. I finally figured out how to do this for myself without having to ask my publisher to help me, and put this fun little painting picture up here in the right-hand corner. I think that was 2018 or 19. I'm getting mixed up now, but they're 6 foot by 5 originals. That's my Sea Trilogy, Earth Trilogy series. The one on the left is the Earth, and the one on the right is the Sun, if you couldn't tell that. And then there's a third one, a water, has more like of a circle in it. But they were really fun to make, and they have plumber's joint compound mixed into the paint, so it's very like tactile. It was really fun to make. Down here, this is the page I worked on yesterday, and we're going to talk about Endeavor University today and how the courses are being built out in there. So today's session, the theme is frauds, and we're going to have a fraud course inside of Endeavor. There's already one there, but it's pretty tiny right now. So I had not had Endeavor University linked with its own page on my website because I'm still expanding those skills of my own. I had this little tiny E that you could click through to there and find it. And I have a couple of blogs that link over to Endeavor. So I'm using the word Endeavor I like because it's a reference to the gig economy that we live in today and how we all are doing many different things instead of like that older model of a traditional career all in one place with one employer that's now gone by the wayside. So before we go into that, I want to just define our fraud. We'll start with the fraud definition because it's broader than, I think, financial. So it's wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. A person or thing intended to deceive others, typically by unjustifiably claiming or being credited with accomplishments or qualities. So we started talking about this some yesterday, and it is, as a CPA, something that I've spent time getting at that in my career, studying them for my continuing education. In particular, I've never been a forensic auditor, which are ones that come in and like intentionally looking for frauds and like discovering the paper trail. That's a very specialized skill set. So I've always worked with individuals from taxation 100%. So I've never been on the audit side, but I would still be required to do audit hours. And that was where I would spend my continuing ed over time and following real life stories in the news, because I'm always fascinated about how individuals are hoodwinked and choose to believe the fraud. And I've always found that really interesting. And I think the main reason is people don't want to believe they've been tricked. And so that's like anathema to humans. That really hurts our pride. So we'd rather believe the lie and defend the lie than to admit that we had been tricked. So very interesting, like psychology behind that. This one we talked about, this article before, Wall Street on Parade. This is trying to place an argument that, Jeffrey Epstein was a real investment advisor and had legitimate skills. But when you look at the definition of fraud and about how someone that is lying about their credentials or putting together a platform that makes them look like they're more certified or credentialed than they are, that this would apply to Epstein, because in this article, it's talking about how he did not, even when he was a math teacher, he didn't have a college degree, apparently. And therefore, he would not have been able to get the regular SEC training courses that an investment advisor would take without that credential, without some kind of lying going on about that. And I haven't actually researched yet, and I plan to, his background of academics and assumable training. So one fact I didn't know until reading this article about Epstein was apparently in 2008, he was also connected to the Bear Stearns decimation, and he was involved there in some way, which is like what happens, the fraud, they keep having to go find another place. But the real tie-in is he has been tied and was hired by Les Wexner. We're going to go look at him. As far back as either 1987, 86, 89, depending on what interview the two of them were talking. So in 2002, that article in New York said that Wexner hired him in 1987. Vanity Fair was saying 86, and then they said 89. So that's when he was a math teacher in New York, Epstein. So if you don't know who Wexner is, he was super powerful and wealthy back then. He was chairman and CEO of L Brands, the Limited is what it used to be called. And back in the 80s, I know this because I shopped at the Limited and bought lots of clothes there as a 20-something-year-old. A retailing marketing conglomerate that now includes Victoria's Secret, Huge, Pink, Bath and Body Works. So all of those brands, basically like one side of the strip mall or inside of the mall, right? If you walk down one side, they're all sitting there right next to her. They're all rolling up into one guy, Wexner. So think about that. When you're shopping at Victoria's Secret, you, and I've been there, my kids have shopped there, we are financially supporting Wexner and Epstein, who was running his money for 30 years. So he continued to run that money for, I think, until 2012. It's been a long, and that's in this article too, the cut. So when you buy the Endeavor fraud courses, these will be saved, the links that I'm referencing in each article. So that way you can come and find them again and see it for yourself. Because just because I'm telling you something doesn't mean you should believe it either. You need to do your own confirmation, and each of us, because there's so much misinformation out there and people putting out their own information, and that you don't necessarily have to agree with it because someone else is saying it. So the one thing from my experiences that I would say about someone as powerful as Wexner, a billionaire, supposedly worth 4.8 billion, and there's his picture. I have worked for people like this in taxation land and Big 8 and now Big 4 public accounting. And the weird thing about this story is he supposedly liked Epstein and gave him all of his investments at that time in the 80s to invest for him. Now, people like this that are totally doing, they worked really hard. I didn't know one of them that would give their entire fortune to one investment advisor, first of all. And if they did, it was not someone that had no experience doing it and worked on their own like this. The only time you've seen people do this that's been in the news has been when they want to control and manage outcomes and have power over that investment advisor. So it's not a healthy relationship, because now you can make that investment advisor do things that are illegal, potentially. Now, we don't know what happened here, but it gives the investor ownership in a level over the advisor, and it can go the other way too. So now if something goes wrong, if there's insider trading, if there's improper reporting that would, be fraudulent, if that happens, then there's no other people in a firm that could be confirming that this is correct or not correct. So there's there's like a level of undue influence. So it has all of the trappings of a negative situation is at best, I would say. And there's so much money involved, it just doesn't make sense that someone like Wexner would just have one guy doing this, because you wouldn't get good performance like purportedly that they had. So based on my life experiences, that just smells funny. Okay. This is coming back to the Madoff fraud. And we talked yesterday in how, to me, they are psychologically linked because of my personal life experiences, is that both Madoff and Epstein were living at least part of the time in the town of Palm Beach while my family, we were living there. My two daughters were young. So it hit right at my heart when this was all going down as a CPA and as a mother of young daughters. So I talked about Harry Markopoulos yesterday, who was the accountant that for years tried to get the SEC and others to investigate Madoff. And I think one of the things, assume there could very well have been collusion inside of the SEC to suppress this, because Madoff was tied to so many powerful people. And therefore, maybe there was an intentional disregard and suppression of Harry's testimony. But let's assume that's not the case and they were just ignoring it. One of the things in the movie, and I'm going to read this book. I just bought Harry's book here, so I haven't read his detailed book yet. And I'm a big reader, so I can read pretty fast on a Kindle, and I love to use my Kindle as a database reference so I can go back and search and then use that to reference other work. So one of my courses I can't wait to build out in Endeavor is going to be my own, Erica's book club, and kind of have like subsets. So you could have like all the fraud books and my like little summary video of each book. So this is one of the ones that will be in there. So I feel like Harry tried to explain the intricacies of why it had to be a fraud, the supposed machinations that Madoff was doing that was so sophisticated that no one else could replicate it. And, he was a genius. And let's come back to the definition of a fraud. Deception, your unjustifiable claims and accomplishments and qualities, right? So that's part of what was going on with the Madoff thing. He's a genius and no one else can figure it out. And I remember seeing CPAs as the story was breaking, trying to say, oh yeah, they knew that it was like too impossible to figure it out because it was just so complicated. Well, it was so complicated because it was hidden and secretive. That was the complication. But one of the common threads that I have seen with frauds like this, smaller scale, is there's always this trick. And if you look and you're looking up here like a magician at the oh wow, he's pulling a white rabbit out of a hat. That's so amazing. That sleight of hand is going on. So if you looked just really simply, instead of looking at all the the magic act that was being put out there around the Madoff genius, presentation, is if you had just looked at, well, who is the custodian? Who is the custodian of the funds? So when I work with individual clients that work with an investment advisor that has their own firm, and there's a great guy down in Texas that I have a couple clients that are with him. His name is on the firm, but he doesn't touch the money. He is not custody of the money. He's not the custodian of the money. The money is with Fidelity Investments. They have the money sitting in there. Are they managing the money? No. The investment advisor, Joe Smith, John Hancock, whoever that person is the one putting the method together, applying it to the assets, but he does not have control of the assets. Why is that important? In Madoff's case, if you went and asked who's your custodian, there was none. There was no custodian. Madoff was taking the money. You were writing a check to Bernie Madoff, and he had custody of the money that he was providing advice on. And that is what you never, ever, ever do. So if someone is all of a sudden into I'm a new investment advisor, don't ever give money to someone directly like that, because now that person has control of the asset. You want the trust, the bank, to be the custodian. Charles Schwab could be a custodian. That's another one. They provide that type of service to individual investment advisors. So same thing with, if you got down on, and Epstein was doing this more privately for Wexner, so I don't think those documents are out there to be seen. But if you had just looked at, oh, Madoff's approaching you, give me the 5 million. Okay, who's your custodian? There isn't one, no, back off, okay? So I just want to make that's a really simple way to figure out if someone's not on the up and up. You don't have to understand all their little complicated magic trick stuff. All right, so I wanted to show you one other thing in here. Yesterday, when we were talking about frauds, I do not have a paying subscription to the Washington Post. So and they require it. So one of the little interesting things is when I saved that web page about the actual cause of death of the Capitol Hill policeman, it wouldn't let me save it. Like, it wouldn't let me save the link, because let me save a link, but it's like to an advertisement, hey, sign up for the subscription. So that was something I found out after we hung up. And I had to therefore PDF that particular article down, because it won't let me save the URL over here, because I'm not going to pay the Washington Post for their information on the web. And then I have that PDF saved now, and I have that up in G Drive. So that way, if I'm going to use that as a resource to support the articles inside the classes inside of Endeavor, that'll be a link from the G Drive instead. So I thought I would just point that little thing out. Okay, so now we're going to come back here to Endeavor. And one of the things as a small business digital warrior person, like many of you out there, is I liked having a lot of different things. We've talked about a lot of my different endeavors. So if they're on different platforms, you definitely are diluting your brand to some extent if you can't find them all in one place. So if you're like me and you have a few things going on, having them tying back to you in some big way, I think is of great long-term value. So, and also it's easier for people to find, all of the things that you do in one place. And I've used the example of Michael Jaco a lot with his Unleashing Intuition, and which is a very valuable courses that he has. But he doesn't have a website just with his name. So I'm thinking that would be a powerful way for him to start more connecting all of his different endeavors, because that gets a little lost. And now you could like have he could have all of his videos up there that if he still has copies of the ones that were deleted. Okay, so one of the things I did for each of these pages, when I added the Endeavor page yesterday, which took me hours. So be patient with yourself when you're learning how to do this. It takes time. And one of the things I'm going to end up starting to promote will be that people can end up, if it resonates with what I'm doing on Endeavor U, and maybe there's a course that you would be interested in doing, and instead of you taking all the time and the money to build out a platform, you could at minimum put a course out there to start promoting, and you could revenue share. That's an automated process on the back end of Endeavor University. So in the future, we'll be doing some of that. But this URL up here is a link now that I can embed into each of the videos. So I'll start doing that because it'll take you first to my page, to my site, and then it'll take you the click through to Endeavor. So I think that's a way when you're building your own brands out, I think it becomes more powerful and meaningful if you can somehow tie it back in all to yourself. So for me, this feels very authentic. Okay, so we talked about, okay, so we're going to read one more piece about a fraud story out of my second book in the series, the Love and Taxes series. So this is my true story series. I want to have 7 books in this eventually, so I have to live a while. I have to live a long time so I can get these all done. This one I published in September 2019. You can see that here. And the third book is going to be Love and Mergers. We talked about this a little bit. This is the original watercolor I did for the cover of the book. And I'm going to keep trying to do a heart shape for each one. And we've read the back of this one, but I'll read this one out loud here. What if investing in your heart brings the biggest return? This sequel to Love and Taxes is yet another hybrid of swashbuckling business tales wrapped in a tender tissue paper of love. Not only is it an unusual tale of 2 independent souls finding each other through the lonely corridors of corporate America, but it also happens to be a true story. It is written with the purpose to remind others that often the best returns on investment come from the most unusual of combinations. So I had fun writing that little blurb because it took a little bit, but it came together. So I'm going to read, and this will go into the fraud course. I'm going to read from page 93 of Love and Business, Crimes of Opportunity. Sometimes seeing for oneself is the best of all teachers. So experience is the best of all teachers, right? That's another play on that. Keith was fresh from his surprise road trip due to Hurricane Ivan that was spinning in circles over the entire state of Florida. He was in a full state of high spirit. His Scottish skin was flushed a light pink as he regaled the bartender with stories of his own collegiate days tending the bar at Lake George, which is up in New York. As I strode up to the bar in my Jones, New York, all business burgundy pantsuit, I was so happy to see the man in my life, and I was grinning ear to ear. As Keith rose to greet me in that second-natured way that Southern gentlemen appear to own in spades, I grabbed his 2 cheeks between my hands, and I kissed him on the mouth, which definitely surprised this man in charge. I am so glad that you are safe after that long road trip all by yourself, I exclaimed, continuing in a more joking tone after my dramatic public attack. I cannot believe you drove through a hurricane to come and see me. I am quite beguiled by this gallantry, I quipped. As I settled down by Keith's side, we began shooting the breeze like most people do by talking about the weather. Violent patterns were rocking the South in the summer of 2004. Not only was Ivan still roaring, Hurricane Jean was busy kicking up the Atlantic. Apparently, she was going to ride Ivan's coattails right into the east coast of Florida, too. Keith's vibrating baritone boomed, "I swear, half of Palm Beach checked into the Ritz with me. I've seen more Palm Beachers here in the executive floor lounge than I've seen living on my own street the past few months. And I'm not going back until this thing blows itself out." "Y'all can't screw around with hurricanes because they will tear you up. I'm a belts and the suspenders kind of guy, and I don't mess around." As Keith broke down all of the hurricane-proofing steps he completed with the fastidious help of Charles, his property manager, it sounded like a Fort Knox type of solution. What else could you do but prepare and get out of the way? We ordered appetizers from the bartender and some shrimp cocktail and crab cakes. We moved into what I had so proudly accomplished that day, the completion of my fraud accounting credits. So I began. "I think I picked frauds today to study because they are a comment on the human condition. What I learned confirmed what I already felt. Most financial frauds that are discovered are committed by first-time offenders. They are crimes of opportunity. 9 out of 10 people caught in a financial fraud had never been caught in any other type of crime. So what does this mean, right? It means that you can't really legislate or regulate against fraud. You cannot really weed out theft by who you hire. We have to recognize that pretty much anyone, when presented with an opportunity to get away with a financial theft, will attempt to commit it. It's human nature." Keith interrupted. "Well, that's kind of hard to believe, but let me think about that for a minute." I was getting riled up and kept barreling on. "Just think about it. As managers in a business, we have to keep our eyes and ears open. If it does not smell right or look right, it probably is not. Frauds are crimes of opportunity. Does it look like the person's circumstances have changed? Based on this study, 9 out of 10 financial frauds are committed because the person believes that they will not get caught. They did not plan it. The opportunity just presented itself and they took the bait. That's a lot harder to regulate against. You have to change your underlying presumption as an employer that anyone is susceptible and focus more on preventing opportunities. If you tempt most people with a honeypot, they will bite." Remember the word honeypot. Then Keith said, "Well, I tell you what, you might be onto something here. I do have a case I dealt with about a fraud I discovered when I was CEO at Hercules. This was in the 1990s. I had spent a weekend reviewing the entire company's performance for the quarter, and something wasn't adding up in one of our 8 divisions. I wasn't sure if I was right, but it smelled like a fraud. But I couldn't prove it yet. So I decided to do my own analysis based on my own perception. And then I took the necessary steps to secretly investigate it to prove my own analysis before making accusations or involving others. If I was proven right, there were big consequences for this. Come at a problem from different angles and question everything to identify the cause. Come at a problem from different angles and question everything to identify the cause. So that's what I'm talking about here earlier. I'm going to come back to the Wexner Epstein connection. And I really don't, I really look at mainstream media that they are intentionally distracting with other things to, and the story is bad enough as it is, right? But this is very quiet. So, okay. So if you think about Wexner, Victoria's Secret, and Epstein. So if you're Epstein and you're flying around on your private jet with Bill Clinton and whoever else was on there, and you're over there in Europe and you're talking to young girls I'm the investment advisor for Wexner, the Victoria's Secret. Do you want to be a Victoria's Secret model too? Come get on the jet. I'll take you to New York right now, and then we'll see what we can do for you, right? It's like that collude. You can. I'm not saying that's what happened, but you can see how that could happen. It's very easy, right? That collusion between two different individuals is the hardest types of fraud to break. So because now you got two people on both sides of the fence, like in the famous old movie The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman, everyone's in on the fix except for the mark, the one person they're trying to hoodwink in that particular event. So think about that. We'll continue with the fraud story. And okay, I'm going to come show you the endeavor so you can see where we're going with these videos. So we're making these more live, so interactive with the use of the videos in these courses. So this was the Digital Warrior course number 1. So it's going to be the first 7 videos that I did. And the first one's pretty long because I'm introducing the whole concept. And then you can see each video attached after that is a little shorter. It's more like a half-hour one. And then I have clicked on here the topical summary. So this would be all information that you own. These are the types of topics that we're talking about. So today we did a story time, right? We talked about our topic of interest was fraud, which is also was our tax minute kind of combo. Our tech talk we did with the inner reader a little bit, and we're going to finish up with artful. The other thing I attached in here is once you get a free coupon so you can get the digital book. If you sign up for the course, you can click through on that link. And then you can see here's the next video. And I have to figure out how to stop that one. Oh, talking over myself. Okay, and then I wanted to show you how to come back out, go to dashboard. And when you're at your dashboard as the student, like this will be your name here. And this one, the intro to mudras, as we've talked about before. So you can look at the overview of a course, and then you can also click on resume to go into the course and pick up where you left off. So if I'm going to see overview on this QuickBooks Online. I think I have to put a picture in there. Oh, this is the one I'm still working on, this summary, sorry. We'll do this one. And then it takes you back into where we were, and it'll automatically start playing that first video. So we're going to end up putting certificates of hours spent in each course. So for those of you, especially those of you in the gig economy, and you're trying to build up your expertise, this would be a way, kind of like if a yoga teacher goes to yoga school and you do all the hours in the school or the massage school. We're going to do it that way by hours, and each course you can end up getting a certificate, and you're kind of bundling them together. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about today is the Shopify store. So if you're trying to build one of yours up for your products, one of the things I did yesterday is, and this is practicing empathy, right? You're trying to figure out what is it that your customer is liking, and how would your customer be thinking? So marketing is a big practice in empathy, in my opinion. Kind of mysterious, but I switched away. I used to have themes in here. Like, so I would have, okay, elegant seascapes, abstract, Palm Beach memories, and that's nice, like if it's all one theme, but then you don't really know what products that it's on. So it's making your customer, I think, work a little too hard. So I did this new collection, home collection, which is all like pillows and mugs and things you would use in your house. The water bottles are our most popular selling item at the time being. We just added a new one. This one too, which is I think very so. This is the name of my Plants Have Feelings Too, and so I'm kind of tired of the vegan people like, oh, well, animals have feeling. You can't eat animals. I'm like, well, plants actually do have feelings too. So we can't eat them either. So I'm like, okay, we just have to be proper in our stewardship and not abuse our position as humans is my feeling. But you can eat plants. They're like you're hurting them when you're killing them to eat them. So I just have to say that to my vegan friends out there. So if you come back, so all the themes that you've seen in previous videos are now gone, and I've changed these 12, and they're still saved in the back room, but now these ones are a little smaller, this Happy Kitchen one, there's not a lot in there, but yeah, there's cutting boards, I think, and mugs are our two primary kitchen. I don't think we have the water bottles technically in there yet. We just have them, and we have water bottles inside of their own category and also inside of yoga gear. So it takes a lot of thought and time. You can tell like the beach gear, there's gonna be some overlap between towels, but because it's summer, like the flip-flops are inside of beach gear. I have some of the rash guards are inside of beach gear, and the water bottles might be in there too. So trying to like sort things by how you think as a customer is where we're going with that. I think I'll always keep the note cards. That's a pretty baby collection so far. I only have like 2 in there, but I could see over time that I might end up having like 500 cards. I feel like I'm going to have a little Hallmark shop just inside the cards, because I think the watercolor I enjoy making is very has synergy with the greeting card market, and I like that it's unique and one of a kind and not like 1 million other cards you see out there. So one of the things that we are getting to the place now with this Shopify online store, which is pretty robust. It's pretty intense. It's like 3 or 4 of us have been working on here, like your scouting products, quality control, design, creativity, getting all the technology to work. It's pretty intense. So if you're starting out yourself, and the technology fees, add up, so then you're paying for help. So if you're like a yoga teacher and you have some cool designs, but technology might not be your thing, there is an ability for you as a vendor to partner with a store like my own. I'm probably not ready to accept other vendors yet because we're still in the middle of chaos, trying to organize everything. But in theory, we could. And the way Shopify would work would be you would be one of the vendors listed, and you would see it instead of Erica Elliott under it'd be your name, and then you would get paid out directly from the profits. So when you do a print on demand, the products are more there's more cost built in. They're collecting the sales tax for you. Everything's kind of being done. So the profit margin's like more like 50% versus a retail store where it'd be like 100 to 150% markup. But it's still like if you think about it as like a royalty from selling a book, that's kind of the same idea where maybe that profit margin per product is maybe $10 to $25 if it's like a more expensive product. So it's a pretty good market for the fact that you're doing all the work up front. It takes time to build up your store. So that might be a way for you to partner with someone else's online store, for you to try out your own line without you having to learn all the technology. So It's not, you know, it's not like, unless you are a programmer, and a lot of programmers aren't really marketing retailers. So it's like, how do you grow both sets of skills? And then the other app that we have plugged in is we can partner with retail stores that like these products. And you can actually log into the store once we partner up and order at wholesale prices for your bricks and mortar store. And then we would make a little bit of profit from the wholesale price, and then you would just mark up. You own the inventory now. You bought inventory from my shop, and then you would put it into your retail space. So that's a way we could, for especially like the yoga studios and maybe like the beach shops, souvenir shops. Like I think some of this could end up going in there, but that's an intense process for us to go market to them. So if anyone's watching the video that has a store like that, you can contact myself or through my website is probably the best way. And then also I always promote and acknowledge, see if I can get Shannon, you can contact Shannon directly as well. She's my marketing director. I should have had her page up already. Sorry about that. This one's going a little long. But Shannon represents me and markets my store and helps me with product design. So if you're interested in getting retail brought down to your bricks and mortar shop, let us know. We can figure that out. So I think that is it for today. That's a lot of information, I know. So thanks for hanging with me. And you'll be able to find this back here on Endeavor University. This will be in the fraud course. So that's it. Let's see if I can turn this off. Bye.